Nation. Each week we explore the most impactful headlines that are shaping the narrative in South Sudan. We delve into issues related to national development, peace building, politics, culture and economics. To stay informed and engaged, tune into Around South Sudan and be part of the conversation that matters. Subscribe now and join us for the stories that connect us all. Together, let's explore the heart of South Sudan. Welcome to Around South Sudan. You go to podcast for the stories that shape our nation. Each week we explore the most impactful headlines that are shaping the narrative in South Sudan. We delve into issues related to national development, peace building, politics, culture and economics. To stay informed and engaged, tune into Around South Sudan and be part of the conversation that matters. Subscribe now and join us for the stories that connect us all. Together, let's explore the heart of South Sudan. Welcome to Around South Sudan. You go to podcast for the stories that shape our nation. Each week we explore the most impactful headlines that are shaping the narrative in South Sudan. We delve into issues related to national development, peace building, politics, culture and economics. To stay informed and engaged, tune into Around South Sudan and be part of the conversation that matters. Subscribe now and join us for the stories that connect us all. Together, let's explore the heart of South Sudan. Welcome to Around South Sudan. You go to podcast for the stories that shape.
It is not here, it is true. If it is false on other media, it is yes.
Hello, welcome to Around South Sudan with me, Lasuba Memo, the platform where we examine the speeches, decisions and actions shaping our nations. Now in this episode we examine the 2025 address by President Salva Kiir at the Transitional National Legislative Assembly. Kiir spoke on peace, the path to elections. He also talked about the economic recovery, and he talked about unity and also the relationship between South Sudan and the neighboring countries. But what are beneath these promises and declarations? Well, we will be breaking it down from what he said, what he left out, and what this means for South Sudanese. Now joining me are rights activist Godfrey Victor Bulland, and who is the Executive Director of Justice and Human Rights Observatory, and social policy analyst and seasoned political commentator James Boboya, and veteran journalist Kwong Pal Chang. I'm glad to have all of you on this platform tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Let's now dive into President Salva Kiir's speech when he addressed actually the Transitional National Legislative Assembly on Wednesday, where he mentioned a lot of things in his speech, and we wonder whether he has said it all. So in the introduction of his speech, he actually referred to the parliament as the representative of South Sudanese. And I'm asking the first question, does the parliament represent every South Sudanese? James Boboya.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I did analysis of the president's speech. I picked up 7 or 8 major points. And obviously the first point was him telling the parliamentarians that you are a parliament, represent all the people of South Sudan, including the 3 administrative areas. I thought that was a very powerful from his speech in terms of telling the parliamentarians about where their obligations are about, that they are members of the parliament that represent South Sudan, but they're not the representative of the people of South Sudan because they're not been elected in there. They are representatives of their own parties in the name of representing the South Sudanese. But they also have aspirations that are not going in accordance with the people of South Sudan, because if Parliament are truly the representative of the people of South Sudan, they should have been playing a very positive role in terms of ending the conflict and uniting the people of South Sudan. Mm-hmm. Right now, they're not doing that. Actually, they are doing a lot of things that are pushing out South Sudanese from not uniting. Most members of Parliament begin to become more interested in how much they get from Parliament, other than really pursuing those values that defines them to be people's representatives.
Do you agree, Victor?
Well, I quite agree somehow to what my colleague has said. You know, representative of the people, meaning people elected representative of the parliament. And the members of parliament we are having now are not elected. Nobody elected them. They are being appointed on the party basis. And when you look at the whole representation and argument of the parliament itself, one of the reasons why the parliament delayed to open was that they are demanding their own rights but not the suffering of the people. So they are not demanding what exactly is affecting the common person of South Sudan, meaning that they are actually demanding, they are representing themselves, their interests and party interests. And that's why the problem is. Because if they were elected by the people, they would have been answerable and accountable to the people of South Sudan. Well, what the president has said, this is the constitutional provisions. The constitution says the members of the parliament are people representative. But the constitution is talking about what kind of members of parliament who are people representative. People who are elected in accordance to the provisions of these constitutions. But
So
the people...
Why it is a violation of the constitution?
Well, because what I'm seeing now is that definitely this is not people that are being elected, and they are not in compliance. The president is speaking about the spirit of the constitutions and what the constitution is talking about. But the really actions of the parliamentarians themselves, they all know nobody elected them. The last election we had, up to now we didn't have any election. You can see people are being appointed in the parliament on the party ratio basis, from the party to transition basis, the peace agreement of 2018 basis. So they are all on political basis rather than, you know, a common person electing them.
Yeah, and I think just maybe to add, maybe before we proceed, is that of course this parliament is meant to implement the peace agreement. And they have to implement the peace agreement. That's where they get the legitimacy from. If they don't implement the peace agreement, they have no legitimacy. That's number one. Number two, you talk about the spirit of the constitution vis-a-vis the interests that they are pursuing.
Yes.
So the spirit of the constitution talks about people's-driven parliament, people's representatives, but the interest of parliament is not the interest of the people of South Sudan. It's the interest of the political parties. It's an IO, it's SPLM in the government, it's the SOA, it's the OPP, right? And also this OPP is further divided because of different interests, right? So the moment we begin to say people's-driven or people's representatives, I think that's we're subjecting ourselves to debate. And I think just maybe before I also conclude from here, the second part of the speech of the president was talking about that our people are watching and that our people wants to see action than promises. But you cannot achieve this if the parliament is not people's-driven parliament. If those people are just there because one of the leaders decided to put them in there, right? You've seen today, I mean, when the speech was happening, bunch of the SPLM-IO members are not in parliament because the leaders are not free, right? So whose representation are we talking about now, right? Because we have representatives, we talk about the 10 states plus the 3 administrative areas. If the members of parliament of some of those areas are not in parliament, then it's not a representative body that we're talking about this parliament. So I think those are things that we will discuss later on of what needs to be done to really unpack what we talk about representation and at whose interests.
Right, the people are watching. Kongpal Chang, you've been in the media and we have heard a lot from members of the public, the common citizens, complaining about the parliament itself just not been delivering things that they really wanted. They had wanted accountability in the government. They had wanted the parliament to push for transparency. These have been their concerns for years now. So what is your reflection?
Okay, thank you, and I'm glad that I shared this discussion with my colleague from other sectors, which we all also fall under civil society. I pick one thing before I comes to what the people are saying. I pick one thing from the speech of the president, and that is election. To me, he kept repeating himself that we should go for election. And when you look at the discussion also surrounding the election outside the reopening of the parliament. He has keep repeating, saying there should be election next year. And the institutions, and he mentioned it also on the implementation of the peace agreement, that he tried to justify that because since the countries, for me to show that I'm committed to implement the peace and to take this country to election, that's why I reconstituted the three institutions that are responsible for election, and that is the Constitutional Review Commissions, the National Election Commissions, and also the other political parties.
The high-level committee.
Yeah, the political parties and all those things.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I look at when he talk about election, that this country should go for election, it also it reminds me what also he said, that I think he's going for election, and he's getting the country toward election, and he want this parliament, because I think there are some amendments that are supposed to be made before we go for that election. So he talked about he actually called for two groups, and that is that they should join him in peace, so that they take this country to, they stabilize the country by going to election. And what is that? He want the whole out group to join him. That's one thing he called them. But also he said the opposition force that are for peace, the pro-peace opposition force, mean there's opposition that are not for peace, that maybe he mark as none, or they are for violence. I'm not inviting you, but I'm inviting pro-peace opposition forces. They can join, they can be integrated, and we can take this country, secure the country, and go for elections. Right. So those are the things.
Yeah, I want to.
But then we come to the people. What the people,
yes.
What the people are saying, they are tired. And by the way, a number of politicians have been given some praises, including the president himself. He said it when he was delivering his speech. He said, "I will repeat and repeat and say that I will not take this country to war." Okay, the same. So what people are saying, what the public are saying, you the leader, our leaders, you could not work together. You cannot bring a lasting peace to this country. So we did not give you the legitimate. You just disagree, you fought, you went to Addis Ababa, you agree to share power and divide the resource among yourself, but you did not consult us, because we are not part of that agreement. What we want is just take us to the election, so we elect our leader. If we want you, we'll bring you. So this is what people are saying. Most people, majority of people, they are for election. They say, let's go for election because you are not delivering what we want. Yeah. We want services.
But I just have to, just maybe, I want to ask a question, because one of the speech of the president was that peace, security, and national unity remains the top priorities of the government. What does that mean, right? You cannot say other opposition groups are for peace and others are for war, or others are good, others are bad, right? Because it's the role of government under the leadership of Salva Kiir Mayardit to unite all people in this country. It's to build peace to all people. It's the role of the government to make sure that everybody reconcile, right? Because without reconciliation and genuine reconciliation, without peace, without unity, there will never be elections. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, the cost of elections is actually more expensive, because the government needs to have close to $400 million to talk about elections. They need to have maybe close to 100 million to do census. They have to do the constitution-making process, because it's only the constitution-making process that will develop for us a legal framework which then help us to run elections. Even in 2 weeks we can do that, right? But because ending the transition means having a robust, people's-driven constitution. And that's what the peace agreement is talking about. And that's why the government now, they don't want that phrase. They want to find a way of maneuvering. Legally, you cannot maneuver, because it's about legitimacy. Right now, the government legitimacy is to do this peace agreement. The next legitimacy they have to have is to do the constitution-making process. So those conditions need to be discussed. And I think, even for us who are in civil society, and for me who was analyzing the budget, is that Their current budget is $1.1 billion. If you talk about 400 million for elections, or you talk about even, let's just say in total 500 million required this particular financial year, you only talk about $600 million for other services. So government is creating more financial problems because right now the government is not having enough money. I've just had the analysis about how much money the ministries are operating in. Most of this money is coming from World Bank to Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Gender, Ministry of Agriculture, and other ministries, including the Bank of South Sudan, have a lot of money coming from the World Bank, right? Yes. And that's the reason why the government is interested to pursue the interests of the Americans, because they know if they're with the Americans, they cannot get that money, slashed off, right? Because the government has lost money from the humanitarian support from the U.S. in a tune of about $700 million of this particular financial year. So I want to bring it very closer in terms of, if I have to ask the government of South Sudan, what is the definition of peace, security, national unity as a top priority, what does that look like in terms of the menu, right? So there's a few things that I'm talking about in terms of the analysis of the speech of the president.
Right, so any further analysis?
Yes, I just want to jump in from what my two colleagues have said. You know, when you look at our constitution, the constitution has provided for a reconciliation, unity, peace, justice, equality. Those are actually the foundation at which the government of South Sudan should gear towards. And when we are talking about peace, you don't make peace with your friend. You make peace, of course, with your enemy. It is your enemy, somebody that you see is a problem, that when you make peace. How do you make peace with somebody you have peace with? It doesn't make sense. And that's why South Sudan is always in problem. To be honest, we are in problem because we select who we want to be with and who we don't want to be with. We must have a genuine heart. We must be convinced that really we need peace. Honestly, we want to have peace, and we must take all actions, including policies, to gear towards uniting this country. We are in problems. And our problems is created by few individuals who are not even within the country. Their family are outside, by the common person. Look, for instance, what's happening now. This country is brought through sacrifices. Over 1 million lives have been lost. Today, go to the street, the children of the heroes are abandoned, rejected, and left to die with hunger.
Including misery.
Misery. Their women, the widow, have become mad, frustrated, neglected, rejected. Yet the Constitution has provided the government with a mandate to take care of these heroes. They are neglected.
Yes, so from what you're saying, that the statement seems not to address really the root causes of the problems we're facing today. So if we are to go forward, so how does the government now need to rethink its position? And do you think the president's statements are signs of saying conflict is yet to continue?
You know, thanks Lasuba for this question. It's a very great question, and this is a question that almost every expert in South Sudan is asking. There's difference between statements and action. And what we're saying in civil society and all the political analysis we're making is that it's now the time for the government of South Sudan to move into action. I just brought up what my learned friend was talking about in terms of what the government should have been doing in terms of selecting. If you're interested and collaborating with the government, you become a peace partner. If you're an enemy, we're not reaching out to you. Or if your enemy even pushes you further out, and then the problem remains the same. Because the government is led by very smart people. They know the problems. But they want to maneuver these people so that they continue to stay in power and continue to rob this country, loot this country, and bring the country to its knees, as we're talking about right now. The president said in his speech that we want to make sure there's dialogue with political formations at all levels. What does this dialogue look like? Who is going to insert this dialogue? What are the issues to be there? Because you cannot dialogue with, as you said, with your friend. You have to dialogue with your enemy, and you have to come up with dialogue. Always, every dialogue comes with the resolutions, right? Yeah. And the resolution we're talking about here in civil society is that the resolution is implementing addressing the root cause of the conflict and implementing the chapters of the peace agreement to spirit and letter. Mm-hmm. And there must be a political will. Because we're asking what now? Two things. We're asking for action and a political will. And nobody is willing to even increase that political will, and nobody is even interested to also talk about some of the actions that needs to be taken. And the president is the president of this country, is a leader, is the overall leader. Nobody is above the president. The only people above the president is the people of South Sudan who gave him the mandate to be the president, right? So the people of South Sudan through the civil side are saying that action is needed now, but not tomorrow. And if the parliamentarians are going to debate issues in that, the interest of the people of South Sudan must be first vis-a-vis the interest of individuals in government, because that's basically what the problem is all about. But also, they have to accommodate the views of the other political parties, because everything is, SPLM must say this, and there are different ideologies that are in government that needs to be promoted, because they came in the marriage of implementing a peace to do the framework of the Tripartite Peace Agreement. So that is the only marriage certificate they have, nothing else.
Right. You want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to add something. When you look at a political statement that does not reflect the real action on the ground, does not address the concern of the people. A political statement given should have been reinforced by the on the ground, and people must feel. They must see the action, they must feel the action, and people will say, yes, something is going on. But as I said, as we are collectively saying, since the parliament is not united, as we have seen during the address, some members of the parliaments that are from other political parties were outside the parliament, it becomes even difficult for a disorganized and disunited parliament to achieve the objectives of the president. It becomes difficult because there are other things that you need to come together and agree. But since there is a disagreement, still there is a problem. That's why we are saying it is very important that all of us South Sudanese, and more especially our politicians, they don't want to hear, to listen to the issue of the root causes of the problem. The root causes of the problems, if not addressed, we are not moving anywhere. To be honest, it is just like in the mirror you are seeing, and the same problem not addressed, it is going to recur. That's why we are having recurring of problems and conflict is going on, because the root causes of those conflicts are not addressed. Neither they are just avoided for a reason, or they just don't want to address them for a reason. But it can be addressed.
Yeah. And the impact of parliament, the impact of the government, impacts negatively on society. And the reason why we are actually suffering is that anything that the government does in negativity impacts us. For example, if you look at the roads conditions, right? The government said we're going to work on the roads, and the money is released and it's eaten. Then people all suffer because there's no roads, right? So if there's this united parliament, that means the debate that concerns the people of South Sudan won't even happen, and therefore we will continue to remain in this kind of status quo. And I also agree with you that this will even impact the programs that government is putting together in terms of the budget for elections, or budget for constitution making process, or constitutional development, whatever we talk about in terms of government programs.
Yeah, not going far, not going far. You see, water, the mayor water here, we have the water corporation. Water was donated by the JECA, the one built near the parliament. Why is it that this water cannot be connected to the houses of an ordinary person? Why? Because people who are concerned are having their tankers to sell water at a high cost to a poor person. And now we have representatives in the parliament who are sitting, who are assuming they are representing the suffering of the people. Why is it this water cannot be connected to the people?
So what needs to be done to have really a concrete parliament that takes that really represent the hopes and challenges of citizens in every state and administrative area?
You know, our system is very complicated. If even the parliament itself is powerless, because you know they are answerable to their good father, like to their party leaders. Your party leader is the one who decides. If you go against what the party wants, and then or what the leader wants, then you lose your position. So this parliament is toothless, to be frank. There is nothing they can do. Some of them can make noise, some of them want to be relevant, but the head need to take the lead. Let me take it from what the president said, that you just mentioned it, that this time is for action. The promises the people are watching. okay? They want to see action. Action to what? Action, well, that money, okay, we need somebody to take the lead. Get that money, pay the National Election Commission, give them the money for their work. I mean, provide that budget for the election, provide that budget for peace agreement, provide that budget for integration of forces, provide that budget for dialogue. And to me also, people have spoken with national dialogue. Everything is there. You talk about root cause of the problem. Yeah. They are all, everything. I think this is the. I mentioned several times. I mentioned it several times in this discussion, where the people of South Sudan has spoken for the first time, even before they could go for election, because that is a reflection. That is a vote of no confidence for SPLM leader, because people who are causing us this war are SPLMs. They just divide themselves.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
So they spoken that you, the leader of SPLM, organize yourself, you are the problem, and these are A, B, C, D. They said it. So, although some political parties call it a monologue, not a dialogue, but those South Sudanese represent, those voices represent, even those who have not spoken, represent their voices. So this is what I see. Now, how this Parliament can is to help. I think to me, we just cross our hand, we pray there's money somewhere, we go for election. All this, if President Kiir wants this country to move forward, he himself will start the action. He promised, but he should start by taking action on those statements he made, because they are good. Even people like this saying these are good ones, but when are we seeing him taking action, making sure the monies are there so that people go for, I mean, all these institutions are funded, okay? You talk about education, by the way, and how do you call it, this global whatever achievement or something like that, where certain year you achieve certain percentage of
Millennium
Development Goal. You mentioned it, that you want the Minister of Education in partnership with State Minister of Education to make sure that education is accessible to every child in the country. To say that these are the things, he need to take action. He said it, that action need to start from him. He talked about diversification of economy, and we believe every South Sudanese, even those who have not gone to school, they know for a country, for economy of any country to improve, you have to silence the gun. You have to have stability. And that is here, sustainable security, where allow these young men, instead of them carrying guns, let them be busy fishing, okay, doing businesses,
farming,
and then this money goes to the economy. Then we have our own food. We produce to farming, and we have our own food, where we can be able now to say, okay, economically, at least we can now produce we can produce our own food. We cannot import. And I think that's where now you can talk about forgetting the oil. You talk about, let's not look at the oil as a source. Also, he said, he promised that, I mean, he gave us hope that the resumption of oil operation is a promising that economy will improve. But
no, but
this is the situation now. This is a situation. So this is a challenge. Yeah. This is the challenge. The parliament is party parliament, not people parliament, and that's the challenge.
You're talking about this. He highlighted some achievement. According to him, that is the forces have been integrated, and also they've been unified and deployed. And I'm sure you have seen that line.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. I was going to also talk about some of the key achievements. Obviously, if you look at the achievements of the government, it's in terms of continue to steer, much as they're diverting away from the peace agreement, they're able to stick to the requirements of peace agreement, right? But there are lots of things that the government needs to do when it comes to moving forward. For example, the unification of the army is one thing. Of course, you cannot talk about the peace agreement talks about more than 80,000 South Sudanese soldiers that needs to be, unified. Even what happens to the ones that are going to go to the communities and things like that, right? So and now we have people even wandering in the communities with guns more than before this recent conflict, right? So I want to say, just from what Kwong was talking about, the people thinking about this country, The example is during the independence celebration, right? South Sudanese have taken the country over from the government, and they are now once now celebrating. You've seen the amount, for example, here in Juba, right?
Yes.
People celebrated for 2 days on their own. I've seen examples of politicians trying to find a way of how to fit with their communities to celebrate, right?
Yes.
So that there's already, and I want to say this on record, that the people of South Sudan have already taken over their country. It's the time for the government to find where does this government fit to that bus that is taken, right? So that's very important because people are tired. 14 years of no organization for independence where people voted. Even myself, I travel how many kilometers to go and vote, right? So that celebration is actually an achievement that because of the relative peace, people are able to come to the street, able to spend some time, right? But there are also things that Parliament needs to do. I mean, there are measures, legislation that needs to be worked on. For example, the security bill that has provision of arresting people and something like that, that needs to be worked on. Because that is the only national security framework that can unite people if that provision is scrapped because it promotes fundamental rights or infringes on fundamental rights. That's number one. Number two, Parliament needs to also look into the budget for the constitution making process. For me, I don't talk about elections. My interest is if we have a constitution, even in 2 weeks we run elections. And the reason why there is no, and there will never be an election in this country, is until we have a constitution. Unless if we abrogate this constitution and we go back to 2011, which also legally has a problem, right?
It has a lot of problems.
So constitution making process, unification of the army, uniting the political parties, including, because Riek Machar is a signatory to the peace agreement. He has to either come out and join the government, or if he's found to be criminal, he goes through the due processes so that that chapter is ended. Because the moment the chapter is like that, you talk about reconciliation, hanging, right? All those issues like that. So I think those are things that Parliament needs to also have in the mediation process and things like that. But also, there are also issues to do with the going back and popularize the programs of government, which for now, we don't see that. I'm looking for the national budget that's going to be brought to Parliament to see what are the priorities that the government is putting in place. Because I've seen a very small menu from the president's. I haven't even seen how many roads is that budget going to support, how many teachers is it going to be supporting, how many doctors, how many hospitals are going to be built, how many, even if we talk about the support the Chinese are providing to the hospital
of Juba.
Yeah, those are some of the successes. But you can only talk about the hospital without even talking about drugs, because people have access to food security, right? People are dying because of lack of food. Climate change and diseases that comes because of climate change, right? Issues like that. So I think, and also the foreign policy. I mean, you talk about having a foreign policy. I don't know right now where our foreign policy is lying. Is it because we just allow people to come there? We'll talk about some of
I'm going to touch about that.
Thanks so much.
I would like to add on what my colleague said. You know, the process of constitution making, it is the foundations to which the election will stand. If the constitution, because it is within the constitution, the word of election will be pronounced. And anything that is not within the constitution, it is not legally. So that's why it is very necessary to release money to accomplish the chapter of the constitution making process, so you have the constitution and the constitution directs the election.
That's correct.
That's one. Also the parliament need to know their functions, because at the moment it is the same parliament that are not people's parliament are going to lead the process and monitor the process that is going to lead to the election. So for the parliament, as my colleague said, they should first of all understand their functions in accordance with the constitutions. And once the parliament understands...
Are you saying the interim constitution does not provide for the...
Because the peace agreement has been embedded into the constitution, into constitution, and therefore the current constitution has all the elements of the peace agreement. So therefore, all parliamentarians, including the speaker, need to understand that they are not there because of the interests of the leaders,
the political parties,
the interests of the implementation of the peace agreement.
Right.
And the peace agreement has a very interesting provisions, really good.
Right.
Number two, the other issue is that the parliamentarians have surrendered their powers to the executive. That's why you see the country is also in the crisis. The executives are left to be... That's why you see the central bank crisis in the central bank because the central bank, there is interference from the executive into the affairs of the central bank. We have problems, money is coming, where is the money is going? The parliament is quiet. The parliament is supposed to be overseeing all the institution of the government. Parliament must understand their duty, and they must understand that in fact what they are doing is not for their own interests. But since they have surrendered their powers to the executive is now above the parliament. Yeah. To an extent, even parliamentarians are being arrested within the parliament and taken under the custody, which could not happen. So there is a need for the parliamentarians themselves, first of all, to go to the constitution. Their function is provided under Article 57 of our constitution. They should read to give them powers to know what they're supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do. By knowing and identifying their functions and duties towards this country, it will give them the powers to act. The other issue is our foreign policy. And
this still takes us back to the fact that they are appointees.
Yes, they are appointees.
Yeah, but still, they have to, because let me tell you, I've been with some of these members of parliament.
Because you can be replaced.
Yeah, no, but it's fine. if your values, your moral, ethical background, values is that I am fighting for the rights of the people. Even if you speak in parliament, then you remove, actually you're a hero, right? You cannot defend your bread in the expenses of the people of South Sudan, and yet you're not even speaking for those very people you're eating from, right?
Just example.
This is immoral and it's unethical.
Example, you remember last time when the mayor director of traffic issued an order for revoking the driving licenses, reducing it
to 1 year.
To 1 year. I was one who called that this is a violation. I directed the parliament to immediately act, and that time parliament immediately act, and we thank the Minister of Interior, the IGP, and even the Deputy Speaker of the Parliament acted immediately and stopped that nonsense. And it was the cry of the people of South Sudan. The citizens were crying. People are almost taking to the street because of such violation. But they had a moral duty towards the citizen, and they acted and stopped that nonsense. This is what we are saying, that even if some of them are on the party ticket, it is a playground for them to prepare for the election. South Sudanese are tired of seeing faces that does not reflect their interests, but it is time now for them to show that I am capable to come to the next election. You can bring me by acting, deciding towards the interests of the common person.
Right, come.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about SPLM drama. And what is happening, this Riek Machar card is played by SPLM. They are the same SPLM. Because if this SPLM was serious, they locked Riek Machar up, how many months now? 4 months.
4 months now.
What have they done? Just they bring bombs to send bombs to some location in South Sudan. If they were serious, if the problem was Riek Machar, then let them just speed up the implementation with others group. Okay? Let them implement with Riek Machar ministers and Riek Machar member of parliament are there. They should move on. But you will see, and let me tell you, this drama of SPLM will never end, because maybe around December, they may say, okay, we found Riek Machar not guilty, is free, they will release him, they will take another year quarreling, agreeing on how to implement peace. Because this is the strategy the SPLM, the two SPLM are using to keep South Sudanese hostage not to go for election. And this is the challenge. Today it's locked up, tomorrow will be released, and they start, let's implement peace. This one will say no, they will take another year, they will extend. This is scenario that we are seeing. It's just a politics. And this is the challenge. Because, for example, a parliament that has reduced to the party parliament. Because when they want to pass something, like for example the case of National Security Bill, the SPLM-IO, actually they did not refuse because they are for the people, but for the sake of opposing. This is what I see. For the sake of opposing. What did they do? Even SPLM members, the mainstream. First, the caucus meet first. Our voice should be one. We are going to say this. If you don't toe the toe, you are out of. This is the red line. These are the things done behind the scene. So they come and they disagree on the bill. Okay? So you see how things are happening. Because these two parties, or whatever, these parties, will never agree on anything. Just, but they are comfortable.
I have a question for Kwang. Why would there be interest, for example, with the bill you talk about, then it goes more faster, and then things that concern the people of South Sudan is not taking.
It is not taking.
For example, you know how they
of course
they extended the government. Just in 1 day's time, the extension has happened. In the next 3 days, Parliament convened and they approved, right? So it's the same spirit, and sometimes what makes me wonder with most of the politicians is that they are now addicted to lack of shame.
No shame.
Yeah. Because if I do something wrong, for example, if I switch on the street, I will be ashamed, right? But the government is not doing that. So what we're saying here is that if they have the ability to increase political will on certain things like we're talking about, can they make the political will to go across board? If it's a political reconciliation, it should happen openly,
and in the transparent manner.
Transparent way, right? If it's justice system, it should be like that. If it's compensations, right? You see, so Parliament should be left to also debate, because members of Parliament are individual people and then become collective, right? So what I'm saying, Mulosuba, is that the next Parliament, which is this current Parliament in terms of debate, they should be allowed to exercise their roles and responsibilities as parliamentarians, as we talk about. They have 2 or 3 roles. One is the debate of legislation.
Exactly.
They have the oversight role. One thing that's missing, by the way, is the oversight role. And I give the example. When the deputy speaker went and brought sanity around the driver license, that's an oversight role.
It's an oversight role.
And if Parliament does a lot of their oversight role, I promise you, Rusubo Memo and the experts here, is that we will end most of the problems caused by the executive. And that's not happening.
And it is happening.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And so just let me just add on what he's saying. For instance, you know the current issues of the foreign deportees in the country. That one happened in the absence of the parliament. The parliament was in recess, and such illegal and embarrassed international cooperation between the US and the government of South Sudan, deporting in nationals that are not South Sudanese. I was calling on the parliament to summon the Minister of Foreign Affairs to exercise their powers of overseas the actions, the role, the function, the duty of the executive. So this bill itself, I mean this cooperative agreement that reached between the US and the government, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Foreign Affairs need to be summoned. So the parliament has got that constitutional powers and mandate to summon the minister to explain. Why have you signed, agreed to bring nationals, criminals, nationals into our country?
So are you saying that it was not procedural?
It is not procedural.
Yeah, but the president also talked about in his speech about asking for the international community to take out the sanctions and the army embargo. And I believe from all the analysis that I'm having is that they just wanted to do all the dirty things in the name of America changing their mind so that the army embargo is lifted, so that the sanctions are also lifted. But it's not going to happen, because this sanction is not the government of South Sudan, right? The sanctions are for individuals in South Sudan, right? So why would the interests of those individuals then override the interests of South Sudan as a nation in the name of allowing criminals? Because let me tell you, Lusuba and the experts also here, that these guys are in Juba, and the government is spending too much money to look for where they are, right? Take care of them, because maybe somebody is going to become a criminal. So why would they take care of people that are not your own, yet you're not going to take care of your own people, security-wise, right? So I think something needs to fundamentally change, and I agree with him that we will work with Parliament to really summon the Minister of Foreign Affairs. For us, we also want to know, we want to be educated. What is the foreign policy of the government of South Sudan in the year 2025, 2026 looking like? What is it all about? Is it about allowing foreign criminals to come to South Sudan in the name of individuals and sanctions, something like that? And what happens, right? Because the people of South Sudan are watching. The president has called for people to begin to demand actions rather than promises, right? Yeah.
And you know why, Losuba? these issues is a very big issues. Today we are talking about insecurity that we caused for ourselves in the names of fighting by each other, not having genuine peace, not fulfilling the promises we make. So the reality on the ground is completely different from what we say and what we do. Now, most of the politicians are saying they are handing the country to the new generations. But how do you hand us a country where you bring co-criminals, you import criminals from other countries into South Sudan to come and cause insecurity and security risk to us, and you hand for us a country like this? So in the international relationship, the foreign policy of a country is guided by the aspiration of the people.
Someone may ask, how can a few people like this cause insecurity in this big South Sudan?
I mean, these guys are criminals in... I've been in America, and I know that most of the American cities. These are international they know these criminal systems in America. If they come here, they might even hack into the system of government and
that's what I'm telling him. If America, the superpower, is fearing from them, what about us?
Yes.
Cybercrime is the most serious crime.
These guys may be making...
They can wire money from here.
Right?
I mean, it's not only this number, Memo Losoba. Lawyers contacted me from US, including the family of those people. They contacted me.
Yeah.
They even don't know where these people are. There's no information. Only they get the information from the radio. And they told me there are over 3,000 coming. We are not worried about only these numbers here. It is going to be a transit. It is going to be a safe haven for Trump to transport those criminals into our country.
Yeah. And actually, the evidence also I've been seeing.
Yes.
Yesterday, the Minister for Foreign Affairs met the Sanctions Committee of Congress and the House in America. So that tells me that the interest of the government is not about even having a relationship, mutual relationship with the government of America to bring economic prosperity to South Sudan, but it's about lifting those sanctions. And that's not... We're not interested in the sanction lifting and the other things. We're interested in a relationship between America, because America has too much money. They have technology and everything, right? We want their money to come and help build our primary schools, our education system, our health, our roads. Even let them come and take our mining industries, because we know a lot of gold mining here. Let them come and also help build our oil, right?
Yeah.
So we have a lot of minerals that the Americans also wanted. So if they can come and develop those minerals and develop South Sudan, that's the mutual cooperation we're talking about.
And
so
this is what we call
and security and things like
the
that.
best interest of the country. The foreign policy is always driven for the interest of the country.
Let me just come in with a different view. So I was reading today that I think the day before yesterday, Eswatini became the second to South Sudan that they now receive 5. The deportees for that country. So South Sudan is not alone. But the interesting part of Eswatini receiving those criminals or deportees, they lock them up in maximum prison. Okay? But the citizens are saying, look, our prisons is crowded. We don't have resources. Why are we bringing this? So there's a lot of questioning that kind of now questioning the kingdom.
Yeah.
Okay? But here, to me, what we are asking, maybe there's nothing wrong bringing them, but what is wrong is you are not telling us. Even now, do we know where they are? Are they in Juba prison or they are in Pyramid Hotel, enjoying our tax pay money? So you don't know where is the government to tell us, actually to take the media, show them here they are, we are taking them to prison. But that thing has not worked. The first was we were shown where South Sudanese was deported, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs was, by then he was the deputy, received this criminal at the airport with red carpet and bring him. I don't know where he took it.
Red carpet?
Yes.
That is red carpet, a minister.
No.
Somebody, even if they don't put the carpet, it's the highest.
Absolutely.
The most senior government official receiving a criminal, okay, who has been convicted. That is an insult. So what I'm saying, what we should be asking in different way, what plan do we have as a government? Are we transparent? do you have a prison well built? Maybe if they plan to bring those 1,000 of them, bring them here, you should have a facility. You see, like the one of Guantanamo Bay. Let them build the facility, okay? Let them take them to farm. I mean, this is, I'm thinking as just as small as a South Sudanese, not as a bigger way that you say they can hack the system because they are more advanced.
I think
American are fearing.
I should jump here.
Okay.
You know, there is a problem. Under international law and international cooperation, South Sudan sovereignty and American sovereignty does not exceed to the national of Cuban. It is only the Cuban sovereignty that extends to the national of Cuban. Now, America and South Sudan have entered into negotiation and agreement for citizens that does not belong to two of them. Yeah. This one is creating us a future problem. Foreign policy problem, yeah. Number one. Number two, it is a violation of human rights. First of all, the rules that governs the transfer of foreign convict from a third country, the condition is that the convict must be a national of the country receiving them. That's number one. For the South Sudanese, okay, he's a South Sudanese, it is within the condition. But those foreigners, they are not South Sudanese. So our government don't have to assume responsibility on behalf of the government of Cuban, Mexican, and others. Yeah. Now, South Sudan is being driven into a Cold War, American Cold War with those countries. Ask yourself, why have those countries refused to receive their citizens from the American government? Yeah. Because the foreign policy of American government and those countries are in question. And let us not forget.
Yeah, now I'm playing devil advocate now. So it's now the
let us not forget. Yeah. America is found of leaving its partner in the middle of the road. Let's look at what happened in Afghanistan when the American withdrew and left. Even up to date, those who were working, their partner was suffering. So entering South Sudan into that Cold War, believe me, in the nearest future, South Sudan will be left in the middle of the conflict between those countries.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying that there must be a very transparent relationship between the Americans and the South Sudanese in terms of understanding. When you talk about mutual, the definition of mutual interest is that
host parties.
Yeah, I host, you give me the money for hosting,
exactly.
And you give me other things, right? So that needs to be out. Like the government needs to know that okay, the Americans are going to help us in A, B, C, D, and all these things, and we are going to help the Americans with A, B, C, D. I mean, the same like what happened with the negotiations with
Congo, DRC,
with the Congo, DRC, or even Ukraine.
Yeah.
That we will give you all the arms you want, but we will get your minerals, right?
Yeah.
Then your security was become more stronger because you're going to get arms from American and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So this needs to be discussed. So that's why we really want the debate, even with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Parliament, needs to be in terms of what is the foreign policy for South Sudan now in this particular part. I was looking at the speech of the President, I never found it there. I only saw he talked about our foreign policy is going to be peaceful coexistence, regional cooperation, and mutual respect. So, of course, if you look at the case of the deportation, that's not mutual respect, right?
That's not
because you've been forced to host people that you're not interested in.
Yes. Right. Let's talk about the economic recovery that he talked about. Kir said with the resumption of the oil, so he sees that there's a path for economic recovery. And we have often looked at whether oil is something that the country is just dependent on. You have talked about the need to diversify the economy. So, are we likely to realize any economic stability with the resumption of the oil?
I would say not immediately, because the economic recovery is conditioned on several factors. One is the improvement on our microeconomic situation in South Sudan. Number two is on our labor market conditions, and also the ability to produce, right? If we talk about oil as one factor of production, our oil is not receiving the required resources to even finance the budget, for example, right? If you look at, for example, East African, they're going to talk about two measures of financing the budget. One, they're going to talk about the domestic borrowing and also the external borrowing, right? The conditions for domestic borrowing in South Sudan to finance the budget becomes also problematic. The other issue I want to talk to you, Olusegun Memo, is that in 2011, our poverty line was 45% of the South Sudanese are poor. Last year, 88%. This year, 92%. So economically,
we are closing.
We're closing it. So we talk about. Actually, I had an argument in terms of if you talk about taxation, we talk about the revenue. The tax base is 8% of the people, and most of these people are not doing formal businesses, right? That's number one. Number two is also to do with the market conditions, our taxations and our collection of borrowing, and one of the bigger factors also to do with now we're able to borrow but we're unable to pay. So the international lenders are not interested to give us money for growth. You've seen the case with the Qatar Bank of 700 million. Now they're taking South Sudan to a court in America where they talk about 1 billion. You've seen the case with Bivaset, right? You've seen the case with ARSC, the company of Bolmel, where now they're demanding Bolmel to pay them 600 million of contractual money from the over 140 contractors, right?
Yes.
Those are the things that if you put them in the menu, it impacts the plan of the government when it talks about recovery. Finally, the government also talk about venturing into diversification of the economy in terms of gold mining. You cannot talk about gold mining just because you want money from the gold. You have to invest. The same way this oil we have found, you have to invest in the resource before you start to extract, right?
them.
So without investment, even tourism, you have to invest in tourism. You have to build roads, lodges, security. Those are all investment in the tourism sector before the tourists could come and before you begin to reap those things. So that is the conversation that we want to have with the government in terms of the tourism sector, the mining sector, the oil sector, and even the agricultural sector. Yeah.
And I think to add on the issue of the economic recovery on what my colleague has mentioned, one of the issues is that in fact it is not going to be soon. It is a process, a gradual process, taking factors that he has mentioned among others. For instance, you need to have a proper policy in place. We are hearing money is brought into the country, but central bank is empty. Minister of Finance is money in the Ministry of Finance. And we heard from the minister that they pay the people through checks, but there is no physical money
in their accounts. Yeah.
This one signaled there is a poor financial policy in the country. They need to harmonize the financial policy with an interest in mind that there should be a proper procedures of how money is to be taken and brought in.
Right.
And the other thing is that we need to work very hard and help the conflict in Sudan, because the conflict in Sudan plays a very big impact into our economic. And we are depending on oil. We are talking about oil. Should there anything happen anytime the oil is down, we are returned to zero. We need to silence the guns. Economic growth goes with peace and security. Sustainable peace and security plays a role into the economic growth. Because investors cannot come to invest in a country where they believe, first of all, the justice system is weak, there is no peace, there is no security, there is no protection for their finances, for their capitals. So all these things cannot encourage investors to come. So you need to create a conducive environment to attract, silence the gun, provide security, put accountability in place, anybody, remove impunity, fight for impunity, corruption, all those things. You will see investors coming in, you will see people going to dig, to cultivate, instead of bringing food from outside the country. We are supplying our local market with our own food in SSP, not in dollars. The currency will start gaining its value. This is how, and those things are not physical, are not just theoretical. It should be practically in place.
Yeah,
You take?
yeah, I will just pick from where you stop, accountability and peace. And I think our government need to stop, especially the peace agreement government, need to stop this system of no peace, no war. We should go for total peace. No peace, no war. Hanging the country like we don't know the direction we are going to. Peace must come. This peace should be a comprehensive peace where, like he said earlier, don't negotiate with your friend. You negotiate with your enemy, so that nobody will now stop people on the road to not to do business and travel. And then the other thing is he talked about accountability, corruption. I'm glad that statement is added to the list of statements the president has been saying, that he said fighting against corruption is not negotiable.
Non-negotiable.
Yes. So I hope he will take action. If that work, he fight corruption. He himself should fight corruption, so that
but he said
those loopholes.
He said last time that all corrupt people will vomit.
Yes.
Has that happened?
Actually, he said people coming to work just wanted to eat.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't want to save the people, and he said he will be firing, dismissing people who are only for their interest, not the country interest. But let me conclude this way. Let me use this example in Juba alone. Just walk at daytime, go around Juba. All the shops, especially foreigners' shops, are closed. They don't work at daytime because at least city council has so many branches. Fire, whatever.
Brigade.
Fire brigade,
CID.
national security, CID, traffic police, city council,
Immigration.
so many things. You know, when they come with different papers, okay, even tea ladies are taxed. Actually, South Sudanese entrepreneurs are out of business because they cannot. It's only the Ethiopian and the Eritrean and others. And when you see they are closed, they only open at 6 when city council go home. What do? They now destroying our own government, destroying the business opportunity. I'm told in Rwanda, if you want to invest in a supermarket, they will ask you, what do you want to do? You will say, I want to build a supermarket, 5-star supermarket. They will not tax. They will not even register you with money. They will not tax you. They know you are going to employ thousands of youth,
and those
young people.
They will get taxed from them.
They will give you a period where you make a lot of money, and then they will come now and tax you, maybe after 2 years or maybe after 1 year. That is to make a business environment attractive to investors. But here in South Sudan, you want to put a kushuk sukari kida, dafa 200,000. For what? Gal Melo was come. Seriously? Is that a daylight? Is that not the daylight robbery?
The funny one is that they talk of garbage, and you will not see them coming to collect the garbage even. This is extortion.
So let's wind up this discussion. I've been warned that we're time bound, and you emphasize on national unity and identity. Maybe we wrap up this discussion. So how can South Sudan overcome tribalism, hate speech, and division in both politics and society? Because we have seen this is a major problem now. I don't know whether it's exacerbated by the fact that the politicians are not uniting.
Yeah, I mean, I have 4 things that I just want to conclude with, that if we really genuinely implement, we will see some changes. Is that from the leadership perspective, the president and the entire people up to South Sudanese citizens needs to end tribalism and nepotism, because that is the biggest factor of the current conditions or the situation we're facing. Number 2, we have to also end corruption. That's mismanagement. Number 3, we have to begin to implement our rule of law processes so that we secure good governance practices, whether in our financial management system, whether in the political systems, whether in legal, whatever processes. The implementation of robust rule of law is key. I mean, you've seen, we talk about Rwanda where ministers can be taken to jail because of eating something, right? I want to talk to the president directly that this issue of just firing people without telling the South Sudanese why this person has actually been fired is not good enough. Because even for us working in NGOs, when you're fired, they state the reason as why you're fired, right? You have stolen money, you are not competent, or something like that. So the president should be able to tell us why they are firing these people, so that we don't associate with them when they come to our communities. Because that's one way of addressing corruption and some of those issues. Number 3, we have to accept to implement this peace agreement totally as it's written, including embracing those who we call them as our enemies, to be part and parcel of this process. Only then shall we build a true reflection of unity, prosperity, reconciliation, and forgiveness. Because the power of forgiveness is by accepting your mistakes as an enemy and also someone who is reaching out for you. And the president has spoken. He has extended his hands to those who he called them enemies. This is a time where the enemies who are the people who are competing with the president or the government of South Sudan to also extend the same hand so that we build peace in the year 2025, 2026.
Right, Kompal.
Yeah, I will not go much, but I think it goes back to the head of the state and the leadership of this country, that I was glad when I heard him saying in his speech that action, not promise. And this is the first time for me to hear that coming from him, apart from the other words, things that he said. So I think when he say action, then we need action from him. And this is what people are saying. Let us start taking action. Let us take this country forward. Let us implement this peace agreement, and with honesty. Okay.
Yeah.
These guys who are locked up, they are South Sudanese. There's no, we will not. Why are you bringing criminal from our U.S.
And then
and then your own citizens,
your own criminals.
Your own criminals. Yeah. Just let him. He's talk about reconciliation and all those. Let him release those leaders. Let them implement peace. Go for election, and we have a country.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just want to remind us South Sudanese, including the government of South Sudan, for the commitment they have promised us. You know, when they made this constitution, when you look at the preamble of our constitution, in the part 3, it's saying, determined to lay the foundation for united, peaceful, and prosperous society based on justice, equality, respect for human rights, and the rule of law. These things that I've just read, if it is put in place, in action, will have resolved all the problems, and we will see this country moving forward. And my appeal is to the president have got their heart of forgiving. Each time you see him talking about forgiveness, 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 and we are requesting him that this promise now should be part of the action plan that he says. That if he intend to forgive the group of those Riek Machar and other detainees, it will be good to release them as a gesture of reconciliation and moving the country forward, because everything is attached with the detain of Riek Machar. People are not going forward, people are not going back, everything is stuck. But we are appealing that for the interests of really true peace,
and true forgiveness,
reconciliation as the only thing of resolving dispute, it will be good to have these people. And if at all these people are found, evidence are found sufficiently to indicate that they are guilty, they should be taken to court and prosecuted, and let the court determine their fate. If they are innocent, they are discharged, and if they are guilty, they are convicted under the law. So that the normal South Sudanese will not put blame on any other person. People will be transparent to know what has happened. These are evidence that what happened, and it is for good of us. And we pray that may Almighty God touch the heart of our politicians, who are every day running for their personal interests, dragging this country into conflict. The cries of the widows, the cries of the orphans, who are neglected, rejected, refused, suffering on the street, is watching them.
Thank you indeed. And of course, in the next 2 weeks, we expect the Parliament to deliberate on the speech of President Kiir, and that will become what we call a policy document. And so I really thank you so much, James Boboya, and also Kongpal Chang and Godfrey Victor Bullen, for this insight. We look forward to have another conversation on this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And to you, dear viewer, thank you so much for having stayed glued to this 1 hour plus discussion. Let's have another edition of the same next Friday. From me to you, do have a lovely weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our nation. Each week we explore the most impactful headlines that are shaping the narrative in South Sudan. We delve into issues related to national development, peace building, politics, culture and economics. To stay informed and engaged, tune into Around South Sudan and be part of the conversation that matters. Subscribe now and join us for the stories that connect us all. Together, let's